So, um, so it's really a joy to welcome you to the Empathy Circle on Death, Dying, and Rebirth. And we're doing this in honor of His Holiness's 14th, the Holiness the Dalai Lama's 14th Dalai Lama's 90th birthday and year of compassion. Uh, and this circle is inspired by the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Liberation Through Understanding in the Between, which is the subtitle is actually the title, the translation of the Tibetan Bardo Tudul, Bardo being the between. And it is translated and much more by Robert Thurman. He wrote 100 pages of context, not only historical, but also the psychological, spiritual, um, philosophical context in order to get the most from the book. And it is a complete path. The whole book has everything that one could possibly need if one just picked up that one book, all the way from our ordinary mental state to full enlightenment. And there's a foreword by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I'd like to thank the co-hosts, Tibet House US, Shantideva Center New York City, the Empathy Center, and for everyone who is here and who will come uh, to spend 2 hours on a Sunday uh, together, experiencing the empathy circle and exploring these topics that will hopefully you will find meaningful. And there were, I don't know, 13, 11, 12 of us, 13 of us or so facilitators here from the Empathy Center. And thank you so much for coming and participating in this. And I won't, let's see if this advances. Do you see this advancing?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So just to give an idea of where we're headed, I will present on death, dying, and rebirth. I added a slide. It might, if I breathe, it'll be a little bit longer. Bill Filler will explain how to take part in an empathy circle, and then we'll go to breakout rooms, and each room will have an experienced facilitator. We will spend most of the time in conversation, listening and reflecting, and then we'll have a brief debrief. How is it for you that Bill will lead, and I'll close with a dedication. Um, so, um, So the Dalai Lama's reincarnation is of great concern to the Tibetan people and to millions of people worldwide. And it was a reflection on this and
Mm-hmm.
what to offer for His Holiness that I thought of this idea for an empathy circle with Tibet House. So first I'll start with just some current events. This is the latest scoop. Just on November 20th, just days ago, the International Campaign for Tibet's Bhuchung Tsering testified at the United States Congressional-Executive Commission on China at a hearing on religious freedom in China. And Bhuchung made 7 recommendations to the United States government, but you'll see that in the very first and most important is that the US government is asked to monitor Chinese officials' violations of Tibetan religious freedom, including interference in recognizing a successor or reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama and any future Dalai Lamas. And submitted to the record, not sure what to do, and submitted to the record was the statement of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama Denzin Gyatso on the issue of his reincarnation, and a subsequent recent reaffirmation of that statement that that His Holiness issued this year. There's something in the chat that I don't see.
Outside of complaining about the government, being the guy in charge of the government.
I can't hear. Okay, so the foreword to the Tibetan Book of the Dead was written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, or to the Liberation Through Understanding in the Between, which is the proper title. And the Tibetans have a saying, everyone dies, but no one is dead. So the Tibetan Book of the Dead is the least likely title that the Tibetans themselves would give to this book. Anyhow, so I thought I would let His Holiness the Dalai Lama introduce us to it. And I'll just say that I'm sharing quite a bit, and you don't need to remember anything or discuss any of this in the circle. So, the Bardo Tudul, which is the Tibetan name, known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is one of the most important books of our civilization has produced. We Tibetans have a reputation of being very spiritual, though we usually consider ourselves quite down to earth and practical. After all, there is not a single one of us who is not going to die, sooner or later. So, how to prepare for death, how to undergo the death process with the least trauma, and what comes after death, these are matters of vital importance to every one of us. It would be impractical of us not to study these issues with the greatest of care, and not to develop methods of dealing with death and dying in a skillful, compassionate, and humane way. And hopefully this empathy circle will be also a way for us to begin to do this. And in the picture, Bob Thurman and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The Book of Liberation Through Understanding in the Between has been quite popular for many centuries in Tibet. It is a manual of useful instructions for people who are facing their death, as well as for their relatives and friends, and it is actually intended to be read at the time of death, but also, of course, during life, studied and reflected on. Indeed, the reality of death has always been a major spur to virtuous and intelligent action in all Buddhist societies. And hopefully, the reality of death and reflection on it will spur also non-Buddhist societies to more virtue and intelligent action. It is not considered morbid to contemplate it, but rather liberating from fear, and even beneficial to the health of the living. And then he thanks Bob Thurman. I'm delighted that my old friend Robert Thurman, has made a new translation of this important work. Of course, the translation is not new, but it is still Bob Thurman's perhaps most popular best-selling book. It is a classic. So the Tibetan Book of the Dead was written by the great master Padmasambhava in the 8th or 9th century for Indian and Tibetan Buddhists. Most likely in the 8th century, Thurman later explains. It was hidden by him and was discovered by the renowned treasure finder Karma Lingpa in the 14th century. And it is said that he found this book on a cave on a mountaintop in central Tibet. And some say that Karma Lingpa himself may have been the reincarnation of Padmasambhava. So the text includes the original text by Padmasambhava, commentary by Karma Lingpa, as well as commentary by Bob Thurman. So how rebirth takes place, this is from the statement that Bhuchung Tsering submitted to the congressional hearing just the other day. And this is just an excerpt. There are two ways in which someone can take rebirth after death. Rebirth under the sway of karma and destructive emotions, and rebirth through the power of compassion and prayer. Regarding the first, due to ignorance, which Bob Thurman calls egocentric addiction or self-addiction, negative and positive karma are created and their imprints remain on the consciousness, propelling us into the next life. We then take rebirth involuntarily in higher or lower realms. And you can see on the left the fortunate, virtuous souls headed up to the higher realms of the human or God realms, and the unfortunate souls who have done lots of bad actions in their lifetime are falling to the lower realms, amongst them the animal realm. So you could just think of the suffering of the animal realm to get some idea. And there are also the hungry ghost realms and countless hell realms, cold hell realms and hot hell realms. This is the way ordinary beings circle incessantly through existence like the turning of a wheel. That is, people like us. Even under such circumstances, ordinary beings can engage diligently with a positive aspiration and virtuous practices in their day-to-day lives. So I'll just say we here. So we can familiarize ourselves with virtue that can be reactivated at the time of our death, providing the means for us to take rebirth in a higher realm of existence. And if we practice even better, then we will have a whole nother situation. On the other hand, superior bodhisattvas, which are also called meditation adepts, mind scientists, yogis, and Bob Thurman coined psychonauts, which I'll share in a moment, are not reborn through the force of their karma and destructive emotions, but due to the power of their compassion for sentient beings and based on their prayers to benefit others. They are able to choose their place and time of birth as well as their future parents. Such a rebirth, which is solely for the benefit of others, is rebirth through the force of compassion and prayer. And of the spiritual adepts of Tibet, Bob Thurman wrote, they are inner world explorers of the highest daring, the inner equivalent of what we materialists, think of our daring astronauts headed to outer space, I think it is worth coining the term psychonaut to describe them, because they have personally ventured to the furthest frontiers of the inner world, the inner universe, the inner frontiers of consciousness itself in all its transformations in life and beyond death. So, and then also Bob Thurman shares about karma. Karma means action that causes development and change. And so is close to what we mean by evolution. In Buddhist science, it has nothing to do with fate. It is an impersonal, natural process of cause and effect. Bob Thurman also calls karma evolutionary action. And on the left, this is, I put this together from listening to Bob Thurman's Google Talk on ethics, Buddhist ethics. And on the left, you can see a list of non-virtuous actions. And on the right, you can see a list of virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind. So if, for example, we save lives and make saving life a habit, then the thought of killing will not arise in our mind. Similarly, giving, the thought of stealing or taking what is not freely given to us will not arise in our mind. And the same for truth telling and so on. So if you'd like, you can watch that. And I thought it might be helpful because not all of us have any background in the Buddhist ideas, and it's not essential either. And I'm just sharing these, but there's no need. Just take this as some quaint idea, perhaps, or possibly as a working hypothesis on the off chance that maybe these Tibetan spiritual adepts found out something about consciousness. Anyway, the mind is a beginningless continuity of mind moments and endless. And each mind moment arises, abides, and disintegrates. And the mind is defined as a mere continuity of clarity and awareness. Clarity being the mind being like a mirror reflecting outwardly whatever we experience in our waking state, and inwardly what we experience in our dreams or what we think of, our thoughts, emotions, and so forth. And awareness is awareness of that clarity and that mental experience. The Buddhists also talk about levels of mind. We have coarse mind associated with a coarse or gross body, the waking state, when we are using all of our sense consciousnesses, our five sense consciousness, using our eyes, our ears, our nose, and so forth. And then we also have levels of mind that are increasingly subtle, that we can access through meditation or as we transition through the dying process or as we transition through the sleep cycle. So a subtle mind, for example, is the dream state, and it is the subtle body in the dream state that experiences, that talks in the dream, that flies, that, walks, that, whatever it experiences in the dream state. And then also the ordinary between life and death, we also experience a subtle body along with the subtle mind. And then the super subtle mind, the most subtle mind, which is ever present in those dissipating mind moments, arising, abiding, and dissipating, is inseparable from a super subtle body or a super subtle wind. And during deep sleep, we are totally unconscious of our super subtle mind, but we can also access this mind through deep meditation and what Bob Thurman calls a waking trance. And it is also called the clear light mind of death. And as we move through life into death, if we are aware and have some experience with meditation and mental awareness and mindfulness, we, if we are fortunate, can recognize the clear light nature of our mind, which liberates us from our egocentric addiction. A soul's continuing life process endlessly goes through the phases of death state, between state, and life state. These phases are parallel within a single life to deep sleep, the dream state, and the waking state. And within the waking state, the deep trance state, the subtle body-mind state, and the gross or coarse body re-entry state into a coarse physical body. So since in the title of Liberation Through Understanding in the Between is the word between, the bardo, the betweens, there are 6 betweens, and I just thought to focus on those. The life between is normal living, existing between birth and death. The dream between is the period between deep sleep and the waking state. The trance between is the state between the waking state of dualistic consciousness, I like, I don't like, and the enlightened awareness of transcendent wisdom, the true nature of our mind at the most subtle level. The death point between is the momentary flash or several-day period of unconsciousness between life and the reality between. And it is sad that the more we can single-pointedly concentrate our mind, the more time we actually spend in this death point between, and it is very beneficial. The reality between is the prolonged conscious state, sometimes as long as a fortnight, between the death point and existence betweens. And all kinds of experiences, based on our mental projections, can occur. All kinds of appearances can arise to the mind. Fearsome, terrible experiences, peaceful, pleasant appearances, neutral appearances can arise, and all these are described in the Bardo Tudo. The existence between is the second prolonged conscious state of the between traveler, the experiences of encountering various birthplaces in a womb, egg, moisture, or lotus. And of the six betweens, really the point that we are to get is the momentariness of all these transitions. The six between scheme is used to create in the practitioner the sense that all moments are between moments, unstable, fluid, and transformable into liberated enlightenment experience. These six betweens are designed to emphasize the transitional nature of all moments of existence anywhere on an individual's life continuum, whether we are waking, sleeping, dreaming, or transitioning through the death process and beyond. So just to give a brief taste of the main text written by Padmasambhava, after homage to the teachers, the book begins. Hey, noble one, friendly, loving, altruistic, my friend, Bob Thurman shares in his video, you named so-and-so. Now the time has come for you to seek the way. Just as your breath stops, the objective clear light of the first between will dawn, as previously described to you by your teacher. Your outer breath stops, and you experience reality's stark and void-like space. Your immaculate naked awareness dawning clear and void, without horizon or center. At that instant, you yourself must recognize it as yourself. You must stay with experience. I will describe it again to you at that moment. And then the great book of liberation through understanding in the between guides us through each and every stage of the dissolution of the coarse and subtle minds during the death process to the clear light mind of death, the death point, and through the post-death appearances in the reality between and the existence becoming between as we approach our next birth. But at the end, at the very end, it ends. If you've missed every opportunity that this great book of natural liberation through understanding has pointed out to you, hey, noble one, if you cannot abandon lust and hate and know how to choose a womb door, then no matter what visions come to you, say the name of the three jewels or whatever your spiritual refuge, be that Lord Jesus Christ or God or whoever that is for you, and go to them for refuge. Pray to the Lord of great compassion. Go forward with your head held high. Recognize that you are in the between. Abandon possessive love toward your dear ones left behind, your son, your daughter, your friends. They cannot help you now. Now go to the blue light of the human realm and the white light of the divine. Go to the beautiful jewel house and the pleasure garden. And this ends my little presentation. And so just as we approach the empathy circle, I share this quote from His Holiness. When you talk, you're only repeating what you already know, but when you listen, you may learn something new. So hopefully, maybe something here that I shared was meaningful. The book, and Bob Thurman points out in his long preface that this is intended for any human being because we all die and we all will go through these various experiences. So there are suggested topics for the circle, and they're not required. How might reflection on death, dying, and rebirth enrich your life? Or has it, or does it? And is rebirth part of your worldview? Why or why not? Or whatever is in your heart and mind. So thank you so much. And now Bill will, let me see how to stop share. Will share with us about the empathy circle.
The empathy circle is very simple. I'll go through the Edwin posted a link to the how-to, and I just reposted another one. So there are four roles in the empathy circle. The first one will be the facilitators, which will see us with ECF, and the facilitators will keep time, whatever that is, for the speaking turns, and also keep us in the process. So if there are any corrections, it's not a judgment on you or your ideas. It's just to keep us in the process. And also something that's not usual, the facilitators take full part in the empathy circle. The next role we'll talk about is the active speaker. The speaker speaks about the topic or whatever's on their mind or heart for the time allotted. And a tip is to pause periodically so that your active listener does not have to remember too much at one time. And here's the tricky part, which is simple but tricky, because we're conditioned to listen to respond, not reflect. And in the empathy circle, we're just trying to reflect. So the active listener will just reflect to the best of their knowledge. They can parrot or paraphrase, however best they can, their understanding of what the speaker is saying. Um, Once they do that, the speaker can then say, I feel heard at the end of the time, or make corrections. If the speaker makes a correction, the active listener could go with it. Um, when you're the active listener and somebody says something, or the speaker says something that you want to respond to, just wait, just reflect, and when it's your turn to speak, you can respond if you wish. So we've gone through the speaker, the active listener, and then the silent listeners, which are silent, but also very important. Silent listeners kind of hold the circle, pay attention, listen, because they will be an active listener or a speaker coming up. And that is pretty much it, unless there are any questions or if I was unclear. Okay. All right. I'll give it back to Jana then.
So there are quite a few of us with ECF, and Edwin has very kindly made breakout rooms for us. Are there any questions? Or do you want to say anything about that? You can talk
We
anything.
need the question and the
Other questions? Here we
post
go.
it into the chat.
Wendy shared them. Here, I'll share them again.
And when do we come back? Like how long are we in the breakout rooms?
We can
And
be in the breakout room for a good until what is it? Until 10 after?
10 after?
Yeah.
Okay. And at about 10 minutes before that, I'll give a heads up that just a reminder.
So that's an hour and 15 minutes. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so the question is, do you want to read the question?
How might reflection on death, dying, and rebirth enrich your life? Or how has it, or how does it? Is rebirth part of your worldview? Why or why not? Or whatever is in your heart and mind. You can always talk about whatever you want when it's your turn to speak. You can speak to what other people have spoken to, or you can speak about whatever you want. It is a free speech space, and we take turns reflecting whatever people choose to share.
Okay.
And we'll take time turns, and then depending on the size of the circle, we'll have 3 or 4 or 5 minute turns in the circle. Most likely four
Okay.
to 5 minutes.
Great. Okay. The rooms are all made, and so we're heading over there. And if you have problems, I'll be waiting in here in the main room. You can always leave your room and come and ask, talk to me if you need some help with something. Here we go.
Bill, would you like to
Sure.
guide us through the?
Okay. So we just want to do a brief debrief, and I'll just go around, and I guess I'll just for brevity, I'll call on people just to reflect on your experience in the empathy circle and take about 30 seconds or so to do that. So looking in, I see Vikram and Lauren. So it's a two for one there. Well, Vikram first, then Lauren, and I guess.
Thank you. We were not intending. We were gratefully on our own, with apologies for not having been prepared to have our cameras on. I'll just wave and then shut it so that you know I'm a human being.
Okay. Oh, confirmed. Yes.
Confirmed. And so we just lost my father a month ago. And so we really benefited from this teaching on the cycles of the realms and the births. And we come from different cultures that have different experiences and philosophies on rebirth. And we came to an agreement and understanding that in some ways the spirit can be reborn into the not just the young in the family and the community, but into the deeds of the living. And so we talked about living into our karma with the benevolent spirit of those who have passed. And so it's a particular perspective that we're still figuring out, and I wasn't planning to share, but thank you for
Okay.
the opportunity. What a beautiful circle. Really grateful.
Thanks for coming. And I don't know whether you're Vikram or Lauren, and whoever that was, does the other person also want to reflect anything?
Vikram, do you want to say anything?
You're saying we,
He
so
says he's kind enough to say he agrees with me.
all right. I think there's a deeper story there. Okay. Um, Gagan, or if, and everyone, I'll mispronounce your name. So if it's Gagan or Gagan, whichever. So Gagan, I'll try Gagan and then correct me.
Gagan.
Gagan. Okay. Go ahead. You want to reflect on your
I was very late to the
ah
meeting, so I just joined that. I just had I personally experienced a lovely session with uh, Edwin. But at least I found, like just sharing about my father's and mother's passing. So that I appreciated that.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And this I think I can pronounce correctly. Paul.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I guess for me, I looked at the kind of the methodology as opposed to just the content. And so I found when I was an active listener, I really had to use some energy and some focus and to be present. So that was the one thing. But also when I was an active speaker, I was careful about thinking what I was going to say. Not in the sense of editing, but in the sense of precision. So I think that was the other thing. And then the content side, because as I and some of other folk here in my group have been doing, I just been doing a Buddhist course on death and rebirth, so it was kind of relevant. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Paul. Maria?
Yeah, so it was a really beautiful circle. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's always amazing what can happen if you really listen. It just seems to create connections between people, even that we have never seen each other before, and we maybe never will, but it's still a connection here, and I really value that.
Thank you. Robert?
Um, well, I found the whole thing very interesting. This is my first time in an empathy circle, and there were five of us, and we were able to talk together and attempt to communicate or try to understand one another. Uh, I think that there were people in my group who had more experience with the empathy circle who were very, very kind and patient and understanding. And that's what we need in the world. And it's a fine thing to have a group of people that you've never met before come together in that way and have some understanding and heart connection through our practice, our understanding of the teachings. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and thanks for contributing to that.
So,
Genoa. Genoa?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. I love your picture.
Thank you.
It's really beautiful. I find I'm glad I just said that because that feels like it's from my heart. I love that picture behind you. Mostly I live in my head and I speak from my head and I'm very mental. And so I find I long for the Dharma that's the love that I felt in the Dharma from the teachers that I met in the old days, because now I've become very mental and it feels like it's almost avoiding the feeling function completely, having shut down my heart. And so, so being able to address death and dying, which I think is the biggest scare for me, is any time, any way I can do it, I'm really grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jane.
well, it was very meaningful, and just simply because of the warmth between us. Did you mean somebody else?
Yeah, that's okay. Finish up, Daniel, and then we'll go to Jane.
So, misunderstanding.
That's okay.
So, yeah, just, and I always feel like when we talk about death, the warmth between us increases in interesting ways because we just realize our mortality, and that, brings us together. Thank you.
Thanks. And as you see, the empathy circle is not about perfection, certainly not for me. I try to role model mistakes all the time. Jane,
Yeah.
Jane Pacnia.
Yes, hello. I certainly am grateful. This was my first time doing an empathy circle. I felt a lot of love for everyone that was speaking, that I was hearing from, and I'm wishing everyone well on their journey. I feel very heartfelt after that experience, and it just feels good to spend time with certain concepts. It feels very transformative just to spend time with certain ideas. So I feel that way.
Great. Thanks, Jane. And then I'll go to John and Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Feel the energy of the whole group. It was an excellent empathy circle, first time for me, and I've done similar things, but as I commented toward the end, the format was just right. I was at a birthday party, and it was great being with people, but it was like half a sentence and then something else because somebody else came in. This was a way to really share in a very empowering way. And the mind heart thing, definitely, I got into my head at one point and wasn't really listening. So the act of listening is a beautiful combination of really being there in your heart, but also having your head really tuned up. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes, this was my first time doing it as well. And I love talking, like just launching right into such a deep subject and just seeing what came out. And it was reassuring and exciting to hear people talk about reincarnation. And the biggest takeaway for me was really just being able to really listen and then relay back what was said without embellishing. I have a tendency to like edit and correct and say it better or try to rearrange. And so to not do that was a little challenging, but great. I loved it. I want to do it more. Thank you.
Great. Well, we'll talk about that too. Plenty of opportunities. Beth, I'm going to go to the participants first, then I'll circle around back if we have more time to the facilitators. Beth?
The benevolence. I love that word, benevolence. Everyone has been so kind and beautiful. And to me, the therapeutic communication has no boundaries, and although that is an aspect of therapeutic communication, that there should be boundaries. So everything is interdependent. Everything is beautiful. Again, I wasn't prepared to speak, and I'm very much into preparation. So the spontaneity of the benevolence of the participants, the love and the kindness is everything. And that's really all I can say.
Great. And thank you, Beth. And Beth was in my circle, and I really appreciated your input. Thank you, Beth. Judith, and correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Thank you. No, you pronounced my name well. This is my first time in an empathy circle. And I also was amazed how deeply we immediately connected and how much we were able to share in such a small time, in such a small window of time. I felt very heard and very loved and was amazed about the openness with which we were all daring to approach each other. So thank you very much. It was a very good experience for me.
Great. Thank you, Judith. And Tarja.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, this experience was amazing as usual. I was feeling like I needed an empathy circle. And I was grateful because my experience of this particular one was that all of us were connected and able to talk about whatever was true, and all of it wasn't about the topic. Some of it was about the topic, some of it was about other things, but still the connection and the way that the circle weaves is very fascinating to me. And I just love it. I felt like I was heard, other people were heard, and I just love the experience. So I'm grateful to have been here. Thanks.
Thanks, Tarja. Katerina?
Well, I felt that it was in some ways fragmented, and when a person was close to speaking something important, that it was suddenly interrupted by some, quote, leadership council that was overseeing us. So, yes, that's what it felt like to me.
Okay. So you felt a bit constrained.
Not. I did speak, and I even shouted to please give us a moment of quiet.
Okay.
You have all this, quote, instructions. And that's the word that was used too. Yes, instructions. So,
Okay.
not my cup of tea.
Okay. I totally understand that. So slowing down and more silence would have really helped you. Okay. Thank you, Katerina. That's important information for us. MJ?
Yeah, hi. Full disclosure, Sally's my sister, and this is a surprise for me to be on the session, and we've gone through some heavy times in our life with deaths in our family, and I really appreciate people volunteering their time and effort to be able to hold circles like this, and I'm hoping to learn a lot more. So my first time in the session, and I'm grateful to see everybody's participation and felt really heard. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ. Okay. And I believe I think we've gotten all the participants. Jana, I know we're a little bit, so would you like me to continue with the trainer trainees, or would you like to, I'll give it back to you.
You can
Continue?
you can continue, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. All right. So
Yeah.
picking up, And
And I never introduced the trainers, trainees, so there's really a whole, I mean, everyone here, there's a whole richness of human beings here. So I don't know how you want to do it. Yeah.
okay, sure. Um, I'll start with Castle. Your experience in the empathy circle, Castle.
Well, I'll be quick. It was a wonderful circle, and it always strikes me as how it starts off. You feel this sort of superficiality, or maybe just a like, this isn't going to really go anywhere, and then pff, it does. So I appreciate it a lot. And
Sure. Sally Rodman.
Yes. Well, I was in a group with Katerina, and yeah, it was really interesting because it wasn't an empathy facilitator training. So the whole teaching concept of what to do in an empathy circle had not been done. And as it turns out, neither Robert or Katerina had ever been in an empathy circle. And anyway, the net result was that there was some structural misunderstandings. And so I know that there was a little bit of disappointment, but really, in the context of never being in a facilitator training, it's that everyone did a great job. I learned to not interrupt anyone. And being the facilitator, that was a big learning experience. So I want to say thank you to Katrina and Katerina, and thank you to Robert. And I just am relieved that no one is just furious with me, but I just was trying.
Thank you, Sally. Sally LaFaux.
Oh my goodness, the synchronicities are just way beyond my wildest beliefs. Okay? Absolutely beyond my wildest beliefs. Okay. Yeah, having my sister here and who's in Ethiopia, and then having Sally Rodman just say, was my namesake here, say pretty much what I happened in my empathy room as well. Yeah, just like, okay, beam me up, Scotty. Anyway, what I'm just thinking is that I'm just so grateful because no matter what happens, I mean, we're all connected, we're all human, we all show our humanness, as Melanie was saying, and it's just all good. It's all good because we're here because we have good hearts and we want to help each other and care for each other, and that's what the empathy circle is all about. So thank you so much for being here, and my apologies if anybody in my group felt not heard, because believe me, my intention was that you would be fully appreciated and loved and cared for. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Gatsu.
Oh, hey, I am feeling a lot of gratitude towards Jana and everyone who made this possible. And I haven't done a circle in so long, and I'm remembering how important and useful it is. So I feel a lot of appreciation for everyone being here, and it's so nice to meet wonderful people.
Thank you, Gatsu. Wendy.
Thank you, Bill. It was such
a wonderful experience of positive, negative, openness, closeness, delusion, enlightenment, laughing, crying. This balance, this duality was very strong for me in the circle. It was a real privilege to be part of this circle. So thank you, Jana, so much. And thank you, everyone else.
Thanks, Wendy. Jean. Jean, yeah.
Yeah. Wendy just said what I was thinking. And I think because, given the topic, right? And for some of us, it's new. I mean, I watched the YouTube last night. Even though it feels like it's a natural fit in my bones, it's a new topic. So there's the heady me, and then there's the heartfelt me, right? And the circle was new for some folks. And so there was a lot happening. And I think that we expect a lot of ourselves. And we have to just kind of take a step back and say, hey, look at all the things that went well and what we gained from this. And it was challenging, but a good challenge. So thank you all so much. And I loved being paired with my friend Cassell, which felt like a kismet. And so we kind of did the co-thing, and I made some new friends. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. And Akshaya. I know it's late for you. Akshaya, can you unmute? Are you with? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Greetings to all. As usual, it was a very fascinating experience, and the topic was so insightful. We really shared and connected with some new participants like Jane and Gyatso, etc. And I'm learning to be a good listener. So it was definitely great. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshaya. And good to hear from you again. Yeah, my experience is that I was very appreciative of the bravery that everybody comes to bring to a new experience. And sometimes it can be, there are a few missteps. That's one of the reasons why I at least emphasize, and I think perfection is not a requirement for an empathy circle. It's an effort to try to understand, and there are missteps along the way. That's okay. We pick ourselves up and we continue along the path, because what choice do we really have? So I want to thank everybody who came, and with everything you brought, I really appreciate it. And then I'll go to Edwin, and then Jana will go, and I think that should cover everyone, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I was in the main room, kind of doing the tech support, and so it was fairly quiet there. And then Gagan came in towards the end. We had a really nice discussion, and it's a very, very deep topic, dealing with death, and so it's a very meaningful topic. So that was, yeah, very, very meaningful. So with that, Jana, do you want to take it over?
We go. Sure. Well, so thank you so much for coming. Thank you for spending your time here, and for this experience, and for sharing from the heart in the circle and at the end. And so, yeah, I just thank everyone for coming and being part of this. I guess I will learn from this what not to do next time. Probably not so many slides. Anyway, I'd like to share a dedication. I shared links to the things that I mentioned, and in the chat, and there are links to the Empathy Center. I thank our co-hosts, Tibet House, Shantideva Center, and Edwin, and the Empathy Center, Bill, and everyone who's here, Ingrid, Daniel, and everyone, Wendy, all the facilitators who came. Thank you so much, and all the participants. I hope you venture again into an empathy circle. I find personally them to be of great benefit to myself, I've been doing them for 4 years. And I'd like to share a dedication at the end. And this dedication is my own personal touch to the empathy circles that I do. It's not part of any formal empathy circle practice, but it's a universal dedication, just to dedicate the merit of what we've done here so that we can accumulate our store of virtue that will ripen when we die and beyond, and hopefully in this lifetime. May anyone who sees me, hears me, thinks of me, talks about me, loves me, hates me, doesn't care about me, by my presence in their life, may they somehow benefit, have their suffering transformed and happiness enhanced. May this empathy circle on death, dying, and rebirth benefit all beings directly and indirectly. By doing this interdependent mutual reflection together, may we one day completely perfect our compassion, love, and wisdom so that we may have the skillful means, the embodied virtue, the kindness and discernment to bring all other beings to that state. And this is not a training, Genoa. So to answer your question, this is just an empathy circle and not a training. It's just, for us, it's new. Many of us, it's new, many participants. So it is a new learning experience. Anyway, thank you for sharing. Should I read what you said? Do you want to read it?
No, you don't need to read it. Thanks.
Just the last line is really lovely. This gave me a chance to practice staying on my surfboard through the waves. Life happens. So thank you. Yeah. So I think for all of us, that's true.
We get some applause hands just to end with, it's always nice to, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Nice picture at the end.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for organizing it, Jana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jana. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jana.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thank you all. Thanks for having us.